Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be breaking down high lunge pose, or Anjaneyasana as it's called in Sanskrit, which can sometimes refer to the high lunge pose or the low crescent lunge pose. Either one is called Anjaneyasana, so sometimes we try to differentiate by just saying high or low. So getting into our high lunge pose, we have a variety of ways to get there. I'm just going to come into it from a standing position. So I'm going to step one leg back. And I want to keep my feet hips width apart and then bend the front knee over the ankle. And we're just going to start by talking about the lower body, and then we'll move up towards the upper body. So the first thing we want to pay attention to is, as I mentioned, keeping those feet hips width apart. If you're losing balance in this pose, it could be because you have the feet in a line. So step those feet out to about hips width distance, or even a little bit wider to begin with if you still feel like you're losing balance. And then from here, just make sure that you have that front knee stacked above the ankle. So we really don't want that knee to go further than the ankle. So if I send that knee further forward, I'm putting a lot of stress on that knee joint. And this may be okay if you're practicing yoga every now and then, but if you have a regular yoga practice, then this is just going to cause a bad kind of stress on that knee joint over time. So just be mindful to bring that knee above the ankle. It could even be a little bit back, that's not a problem, but ideally what we're looking for is a 90-degree angle from our thigh and our shin. And then we also just want to be mindful that that knee is pointing towards the toes. So try not to have it fall inwards. This is very common, and it's just going to cause an imbalance that pulls on the knee in a way that we don't want it to. So taking that knee towards your toes. Sometimes I like to say take that knee towards your second toe or your pinky toe, just because the tendency to roll inwards is very common, and this way you can always be reminded to go out a little bit further than you think you have to. And that way you're engaging both sides of the quads equally to protect that knee. And then let's take a look at that back foot. So we want to press out through that back heel, and that's going to help to build our strong base and activate this quad muscle on that leg, on that back leg. It also activates the hamstring muscle a little bit. So you might actually have that leg bent if you're dealing with any kind of hamstring injury or quad injury. You can certainly have it a little bit bent. So either way is okay. Press out through that back heel, and then you'll notice that my heel is going up towards the ceiling. And for some of you, this may look a little bit more like this, and that's perfectly fine. You'll build that flexibility over time. So obviously, the higher up it is, the more you'll feel the stretch in the ball of the foot. And so over time, like I said, you'll build that flexibility through the feet. So coming back now to a little bit higher up in the body, let's take a look at the pelvic area. So we want to be very mindful not to dump the weight forward. So letting our belly drop forward like this, which is going to not be very good for the lower back. So we want to tuck the tailbone and draw the navel in, and then lift up from the pelvic floor to build length through the spine. And I know that when people say the pelvic floor, it can be a little bit confusing. It's kind of hard to know what exactly does it mean to lift from your pelvic floor, because those are muscles that are very subtle to engage. And so what we're looking for is kind of this sensation of zipping up through the center, almost like you're zipping up a tight pair of pants. And you'll notice that when you tuck the pelvis, there's a couple things that's going to happen. One is you'll feel a little bit more intensity in that hip flexor stretch. So if you sort of let the weight dump forward like this, you're not really getting that benefit of stretching the hip flexor in that back leg. So tucking the pelvis, drawing the navel in, and then moving up a little bit higher, I want to soften the lower ribs. So usually in the lunge pose, we have our arms up. And if I soften my ribs, I can keep that spine straighter. And once again, if I dump that weight forward and I let that tailbone come back, now I'm also adding an extra strain to my shoulders and my upper back area. So you'll notice that if you just kind of play around here with that pelvic tilt, when I have the tailbone tucked, it's almost like the whole upper back can relax. And so we're not putting effort into the arms here. I'm going to switch legs just because I'm getting a little bit tired on that side, and so that you can see it from a different angle. So let me go through that again. So keeping the feet hips width apart, stacking the left knee above the ankle, pressing out through that back heel, heel lifted up towards the ceiling as much as it can be. Back knee can be bent or straight. Straight will just give us a different sensation, and bent is going to be a lot easier on the lower back and hamstring. So if you're dealing with an injury, like I mentioned before, you might want to keep it bent. And then from here, tuck the tailbone, draw the navel in, knit the lower ribs down. Arms lifted, shoulders down your back. So really getting those shoulders away from your ears, and then spin your pinky fingers in towards each other to open up the shoulders. And there's certainly a lot of variations that we can do from our high lunge pose. I'm not going to get into those today, but you have a lot of options, like some side bending and extending forward, and that's just going to give you different sensations and stretch and strengthen different muscles. So I hope this sheds some light on this pose that comes up quite often in our yoga practice. And of course, if you have any other questions about this pose or any other part of your practice, please feel free to contact me. I am going to be making more of these tutorial videos to post up here on YouTube, so please stay tuned. If you like this video or any of my practices, please subscribe to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it, and that will help me to keep putting out these free videos for you to enjoy. So thanks again. Let me know what you're looking for, and namaste.